Can you guys see my screen now? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So like I mentioned, terminal stages concerned with development of three parts. The pubic hair in both sexes, that is the females and the male. Then you are considering the development of the breast in the female and the development of the penis and the testes in females. In males rather, in males. So penis and testes development in males, breast development in females, then the pubic hair in both males and female. The one that starts in the males is the testicular development. The one that begins first in the females is the breast development, I will call telarche. Why the onset of the growth of the pubic hair is called puberty. So let's look at the different stages. The different stages they run from stage 1 to stage 5. Stage 1 to stage 5. So what happens in stage 1? So I think I'll start with the pubic hair. So let's consider the changes in the pubic hair across stage 1 to stage 5. So for stage 1, there's no pubic hair at all. The person has not even started puberty. Mm? There's no pubic hair. So stage 2, puberty begins. So the pubic hair begins to appear. In stage 3, they become more coarse. So it's just more like an increase in the number of pubic hair that we have. In stage 4, you have the pubic hair growing more. They are more coarse, but they are flanked by the medial thighs. So that's what the question will likely, tell us. You can just tell us that, okay, this individual is in a particular stage where the pubic hair was observed to be flanked by the right and the left medial thigh. Then by stage 5, the hair is now more abundant and it has even, grown so much that it's over the medial thigh. So what are the age for each of these stages? Stage 1, that is pre-pubertal, so that's less than 8 years, because puberty actually starts in 8 years in females and 9 years in males. So anything less than 8 years, that's pre-pubertal. Anything between 8 to 11.5 years, that is stage 2. 11.5 to 13, stage 3. 13 to 15, stage 4. Then more than 15, stage 5. So just keep adding 2 years. From your 11 to from your 8 to 11.5, just be adding 2 years. So 11.5 plus 2, that's 13. Then 13 plus 2, that's 15. Then more than 15 years, that's stage 5. So I've talked about the pubic hair growth. Stage 1, there's no pubic hair. Stage 2, it starts appearing. Stage 3, it gets more coarse. Stage 4 is more coarse, but bordering the medial thigh. Then stage 5, it grows beyond the medial thigh. That's that about the pubic hair in both male and female. So let's look at the breast. So in stage 1, you don't have any breast board being formed yet. The chest is just flat like that. No breast board. And the nipple is elevated. The nipple is elevated, although this image is not really very clear, but we just need to know those findings and just take note of them. The nipple is elevated, there is a flat chest, but there's no breast board being formed yet. In stage 2, that's where we start having development of the breastboard. So we can already see the breastboard here. Here, the breastboard is already being formed, and there is a mount, like a contour downwards. So a contour is being formed, and the breast board is also being formed. Then stage 3, you just start talking about enlarging. That's the way to know it. So the breastboard that you have formed starts enlarging. So there's enlargement of the breastboard. That's all about stage 3. That's all. Then stage 4, there's further enlargement of the breastboard, but you now have another mound that is formed again superiorly. So you can just say you have a mound on mound appearance with enlargement of the breastboard, with also depression, with elevation rather of the areola. So 4 things you are talking about in stage 4. There's enlargement of the breastboard, there is appearance of the second mound. Hmm? There's enlargement of the breastboard, there's enlargement of the second mound, and there's elevation of the areola. This areola, this dark area that surrounds the pupil, the nipple rather, sorry, the nipple, it is elevated. So let's go back again so that it will be very clear. In stage 1, you don't have any breastboard. In stage 2, the breastbud starts appearing with a mound. Stage 3 is just enlargement of the breastbud. Enlargement. Stage 4, there's further enlargement, but the second mound starts appearing. So you have a mound in mound appearance with elevation of the areola. Stage 5, the breast contour has already assumed that of a normal adult. So you have this contour, assuming that of a normal adult with depression of the areola. That is it. Depression of the areola with adult breast contour. Now let's look at the changes uh, for the penis and the testes. So in pubertal, the testicular sac is just very small. The scrotum is very small. In stage 1, the testicular sac becomes more enlarged. So if you can see the testicular sac, the testicles are already enlarging. So the testicles are already enlarging in stage 1. In stage 2, the testicles are further enlarging, and you're also having enlargement of the penis. There's enlargement of the penis, there's further enlargement of the testes. In stage 4, just know that this penis that is enlarging, just that is in length. Here, it is now enlarging both in length and in width, but the width one is more prominent in width. And there's also beginning of formation of the glans penis. So the glans is already becoming very conspicuous by stage 4. Then by stage 5, the penis is widened, lengthened, the glans is very prominent, and it just resembles that of the adult size. So let's go. Stage 1, the testes are not very prominent, the testicular sac is not very prominent, the penis is very small. By stage 1, so that's stage 1. So by stage 2, which is the onset of puberty, we have already said that what marks the beginning of puberty for the male is testicular enlargement. So the testicles first begins to enlarge, even because before you have growth of the pubic hair. The testicles first begins to enlarge. You have your pubic hair that comes in. Then you move to stage 3. Testicles enlarge more, but there's now lengthening of the penis. There's lengthening of the penis. In stage 4, the penis widens in width. So there's widening of the penis in stage 4 with formation of the glans penis. Then stage 5, adult size. Stage 5, the pubic hair is now over the medial thigh. The penis is adult size. The breast is adult, that of the adult contour, with depression of the areola. So guys, I know that it might be difficult to get at once, but I think that's just a way you guys can, learn it to be easy. You just need to know the peculiarities of each of them. So stage 1, for the hair, you don't have any hair. Stage 2, hairs start appearing. Stage 3, it becomes coarse. Stage 4, coarse but bordered by the medial thigh. Stage 5, it grows over the medial thigh. That's all about the hair. Stage So that's about the head. So the next thing we want to look at the breast. So for the breast, initially no breast mount, flat chest. Stage 2, between 8 to 11.5, the breast bud begins to develop, and you have formation of the first mound. Stage 3 is just about enlargement. So you have enlargement of the breast bud. That's all about stage 3. Then stage 4, you have enlargement of the breast bud too. There's elevation of the areola with formation of the second mound. So mound in mound appearance. Stage 5, adult breast contour with depression of the areola. That's all. Then you go to the testes and the penis. So initially, testicular sac very small. Stage 2, it lengthens, it widens, the testicular growth, increases. Stage 3, the penile length increases, in terms of length, it increases. Stage 4, it widens in terms of width. The penile length widens with formation of the glands, which becomes more prominent. Then stage 5, everything now looks like that of the adult. So they are very big, the glands is very prominent, the penis is big in terms of length and width. So I think you guys should be able to say this. Do you guys want to try, anybody, or should we move? Guys, are you there? Hello? What do you guys think?
We can move now.
Okay,
I
all right.
think we can move.
Okay. So, yeah, so let's go to the concept of puberty. So what are the things, what are the possibilities that can, or the abnormalities that can happen in puberty? So you can have precocious puberty or delayed puberty. So precocious puberty is just when you have puberty, pubertal changes before the age of 8 in females and before the age of 9 in males. Because I've said it that puberty starts at the age of 8 in females, while it begins at the age of 9 in males. So what we are actually concerned about is, the hair changes, which is the pubic hair changes, the puberty, as well as the breast changes, which is the telomerase. So, what is just happening in precocious puberty is just like you have increase in the sex hormone. There's increased level of the sex hormone before the actual age of puberty. So it has some consequence because the sex hormone, which includes estrogen and testosterone, are actually involved in linear growth initially. They help with the growth of the body, the bones, and all those things. So there's initially, you know an increase in linear growth. Then with time, when they are not supposed to reach puberty, normally when they now get to the age of 8 or they get to the age of 9 above, because of the abundant level of estrogen, because of the abundant level of testosterone. And you guys remember that I've said it before that estrogen is the hormone that is involved in fusing the epiphyseal plate so that you can cause arrest of bongo. Just imagine that someone is exposed to estrogen or testosterone at the age of 5. So within that age of 5, because of that exposure, that premature exposure, the person has an accelerated growth of the bones because they actually have that kind of activity on the bone. They stimulate bone growth. But at puberty, you have fusion of those epiphyseal plate under the influence of estrogen. So by the time those guys are now getting to the age of 8 to the age of 9, you already have fusion of the epiphyses. So that means that they can't grow anymore. So the high estrogen level, has caused fusion of the epiphyses, and they can, grow beyond a particular height again. So they become short statured beyond puberty. They become short statured because of the initial accelerated growth that they've had. So that's the consequence of precocious puberty. So the question can just tell you that initially they have this increased growth, then later they notice that beyond puberty they become short statured. So that is actually due to the premature fusion of the epithelial plate, you know, by the influence of the estrogen. So what are the two things that can bring about precocious puberty? It can be central, it can be peripheral. So the central one, you are looking at things from the hypothalamus or the pituitary gland. And the most common one is actually idiopathic. You just have early constitutional activation of the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. So you just have GnRH being secreted from the hypothalamus without any reason. It's just there. So GnRH is increasing, stimulating FSH and LH, stimulating estrogen and testosterone. So which could explain all the pubertal features that they experience, or it could be due to some tumors within the CNS, particularly the hypothalamus, that is releasing GnRH. So driving that production of the estrogen and testosterone. That's on the central. So from the peripheral, we are looking at either problem with the gonads. Maybe the gonads are the one that are producing too much of the sex hormone, estrogen or testosterone, or there is an external sources of the hormone, maybe from exogenous use or maybe from anything. So let's look at the possibilities. So um this individual can have congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So you guys remember that people with congenital adrenal hyperplasia, specifically the 21 alpha hydroxylase deficiency and 11 beta hydroxylase deficiency, you have there's a problem with synthesis of the mineralocorticoid and the glucocorticoid. So that means that all the precursors are being channeled towards the synthesis of the androgens. So you have a lot of androgens. And if you have a lot of androgens, there's possibility of all the androgens that are accumulating to get converted to estrogen, and they, they begin to cause the symptoms of precocious puberty, which is early pubertal hair growth, early breast development. So even before puberty, you have fusion of their bones. So before the age of puberty, the bones are already fused, and just notice that puberty onwards, they are short statured. So that is one possibility. Another possibility is that they are exposed to exogenous sex hormone. Maybe they are just using sex steroid for anything. You know, exposure to sex steroid from any cause can also bring about it. So, and you guys must take note in this congenital adrenal hyperplasia that we are actually talking about the 11 beta and the 21 hydroxylase, not 17 alpha. You guys know that in 17 alpha, that is what you need to form the androgens. If you guys can picture that pathway, I hope you guys can remember, or should I just show us an image that shows us?
I'm watching that thing. I've forgotten that stuff. I
You
don't know if
guys
you
have
guys can remember.
forgotten that pathway. So
I
let's
know
look.
there was a code,
No, the way I
DPP or
put it in my
something.
head, is the way
Okay.
I'm looking at it from the picture. So even though I might forget the steps, but I know that 17 is one that is horizontal, you know, catalyzing the one that is up, which is androgen. Why the 21 and the 11 is one that is down. So let's try and look at the if I can get it, hormone pathway. I want to see the way I will search it. Hormone pathway for congenital adrenal hyperplasia. This one cannot be as good as that of first aid, but I think it's close. Okay, I think I've seen something here which can be helpful. Mhm. So you guys can see that these are the steps that are problematic in 21 and 11 beta. So all this precursor progesterone will be channeled towards this androgen pathway. So in as much as 17 alpha is still intact, you can synthesize your androgen. So progesterone will just be converted to 17 hydroxyprogesterone that will get converted to androstenedione that can get to testosterone or dihydrotestosterone, as well as oestrone and estradiol. So this will be causing the precocious puberty symptoms. But you guys should know that someone that has 17 alpha cannot form these androgens. So there's no way you can have the sex steroids being produced. But you can have the sex steroid being produced when there is problem with 21 or 11, such that, for example, for 11, this 21 hydroxyl, this 11 is actually 11 deoxycorticosterone, because the way I remember it is that when there's 11 deoxycorticosterone, you need 11 beta hydroxylase to remove that 11 deoxy. That's it. You need 21 to produce the 11 deoxy, while you need 11 to remove the 11 deoxy. So that means that 11 deoxy will be accumulating in someone that has 11 beta hydroxysterone, 11 beta hydroxylase deficiency. So as 11 deoxycorticosterone accumulates, this one too will accumulate, and all of them will be channeled towards this pathway. That is why you can have realization in people with 11 beta and 21 hydroxy. But somebody with 17 cannot have realization because you don't even have your androgens being produced. I hope you guys can remember now. Hmm? Guys, do we get it now?
Get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you just see the
Yes.
peripheral precocious puberty, two things want to come to your mind: exogenous source or anything affecting the gonad that is producing too much sex steroid. So it's either they are getting exposed to it exogenously, or there's a problem with the ovaries that are producing the stuff too much. So what are the things that can affect them? So 21 congenital adrenal hyperplasia, like I explained. So you can have there can be affectation of the ovaries, maybe in form of a malignancy that is secreting estrogen, specifically granulosa cell tumor. Granulosa cell, you guys remember that granulosa cell are the cells that produce estrogen because they have aromatase activity. So they convert all the androstenedione that is being produced from the thecal cell to estrogen. So that's why someone with a thecal cell tumor can actually have unopposed production of estrogen. Someone that has a Leydig cell tumor, either in the male or female, they can be producing a lot of testosterone. They can produce a lot of testosterone. So which could explain. So if this is happening in a male, you know that it can explain peripheral precocious puberty that they have. Then lastly, you guys should not forget Marcon-Albright syndrome. So this is just more like a genetic condition, a somatic mutation affecting the alpha subunit of the uh X, should I say Hess now? The if you look at the G protein, a G protein couple receptor, you know that you can have a GQ, you can have a GS. So the GS that produces CMP, it has some subunit, alpha, beta subunit. So the alpha subunit of the GS component of the G protein couple receptor can actually be hyperfunctioning. So it's due to activation of a GNAS gene. So that GNAS gene, GNAS, is what codes for the alpha subunit of the GS, G protein couple receptor, the GS type, not the GQ type, not the GI type, the GS type, that is the stimulating type of the G protein couple receptor. So the alpha subunit of the G stimulating type is what is activated in this Marcon-Albright syndrome due to a gain of function mutation of the gene that codes for that alpha subunit of the GS receptor. So what are the three main structures that's affected? There's affectation of the skin, there's affectation of the bone, there's affectation of the endocrine glands. So the two manifestations that are constant in Marcon-Albright syndrome is affectation of the bone. So what happens with the bone? There's fibrous dysplasia of the bone. So that means you have the bone connective tissue being replaced by fibrous tissue. So instead of you to have normal bone, trabecular bone, spongy bone, containing bone cells, they are replaced by fibrous tissue. So they can easily fracture. Then the skin manifestation. So you guys must always remember that Marcon-Albright syndrome is another condition that can cause the the cafe au lait spot. So it affects a particular segment of the body, and we call it the coast of Maine. Let me see if I can check it. Coast of Maine. Coast of Maine. So that's the skin
So you
manifestation.
said that it affects. That's about it. Can you
Yes,
hear me?
definitely. I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, there was a bit of a break. I don't know if that was from here. Okay, so you said that for the Marcon-Albright, right?
Mhm.
We have a skin involvement, bone, and then endocrine. Is that it?
Yes. So the skin involvement, the bone,
Okay.
and endocrine. So for the bone, the
Okay.
bone tissue is being replaced by fibrous tissue. So fibrous dysplasia of the bone, polyostotic fibrous dysplasia of the bone. That's the bony manifestation. Then for the skin manifestation, you have Coffey Ole spot. Just like what you have in NF1. You also have Coffey Ole spot here. So the endocrine function or abnormalities cannot vary, but majority of them are hyperactivity of the endocrine glands. And commonly, ovarian cysts that are producing estrogen is the commonest. Hmm? Are you guys with me? Ovarian cyst producing estrogen is the commonest. They can have testicular, tumors producing a lot of testosterone. Some of them can manifest with Cushing syndrome. There's just problem with the adrenal gland, production of, our glucocorticoid, cortisol. They can have abnormal production of growth hormone. So it varies, but the commonest is testicular production of testosterone or ovarian production of estrogen, in addition to the skin manifestation and the bone manifestation. So do you guys get it? So you want to watch out for the bone manifestation, the skin manifestation, and the endocrine hyperactivity, which would come in different form. Is either they have an ovarian cyst that is producing a lot of estrogen, or they have testicular tumor that is producing a lot of testosterone. So that is the one that will actually explain the precocious puberty that they can have. So it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. So that is that about precocious puberty. So what about delayed puberty? So delayed puberty just means that a female that failed to show pubertal signs or the secondary sexual characteristics, failure to develop breast, failure to grow pubic hair, or for the males, failure to grow pubic hair and failure to, show testicular and penile development and enlargement before the age of 14 years in females, after the age of 14 years in males, and after the age of 13 years in females. So the range for puberty in females should be between 8 to 13, while for males it should be between 9 to 14 years. So what are the causes? What are the causes? You want to classify it into the hypergonadotropic hypogonadism or the hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. Because of course, for somebody to have delayed puberty, that means there must be some form of hypogonadism happening somewhere. So is either that the hypogonadism is coming from a central problem or it's coming from the gonads themselves. So if it's coming from the gonads, you can say that that is hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. Sorry about that. If it's coming from the gonad, that is hypergonadotropic hypogonadism. If it's coming from the central part, that is hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. So let's look at the first one, which is the hypergonadotropic hypogonadism. That is, the problem is actually from the gonads. So it's, the inhibitory effect on the central region, which is the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, is not, there. So that means that you have hyperfunctioning of the central region. That's why you have hypergonadotropic hypogonadism. So what are these conditions? Is it that you have destruction of the gonad themselves? Maybe this person is exposed to chemotherapy, radiotherapy, or infection. Just imagine that someone has mump infection, mump orchitis, or ophoritis. That can destroy the gonad. Radiotherapy can destroy the gonad. They are germ cells. They are highly sensitive to radiotherapy as well as chemotherapy. Someone that has Turner syndrome. An individual with Turner syndrome has gonadal dysgenesis. There's failure of development of the gonad, the ovaries. So they don't have estrogen. Klinefelter syndrome also have gonadal dysgenesis. Their seminiferous tubules are underdeveloped. They don't have Sertoli cells. They don't have Leydig cells. There's nothing to produce testosterone. So that means that the feedback inhibitory effect of testosterone and estrogen on the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland is lost. So you are going to have hyperfunctioning of those ones, trying to stimulate the gonads. That's why you have the concept called hypergonadotropic hypogonadism. So someone that has hypogonadotropic hypogonadism, that means that the problem is actually coming from central. So it's either there is a constitutive delay of expression of our GnRH from the hypothalamus, which we call late blooming, or there is a problem with synthesis or production of the GnRH, that is the GnRH releasing hormone. For example, someone with Kalman syndrome. So what happens in Kalman syndrome is that there is failure of development of the olfactory placode. So the olfactory placode colonizes the cribriform plate, to establish the formation of the olfactory neurons and the olfactory epithelium, so that they can form the olfactory nerve that connect to the brain. These olfactory neurons also, forms GnRH releasing neurons that moves to the preoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus. So that means that if there's any problem that leads to abnormality in forming the olfactory placode, you cannot form the olfactory neurons, and at the same time, you cannot form the GnRH releasing neurons. So that means that this person will have anosmia or hyperosmia, and at the same time, the person will not experience, puberty, because there's deficiency of the GnRH production. Then the last one is any CNS lesion. Maybe there's a brain damage, there's a brain tumor that compresses on the hypothalamus, or there is just hypothalamic transection from anything, that affects production of GnRH from the hypothalamus. They will also experience delayed puberty. So just by way of revision again, two types. Hypergonadotropic hypogonadism. That means that the problem is from the gonads, the central area are actually hyperfunctioning, or hypogonadotropic hypogonadism. So that means that the central regions are not functioning, and of course, that is affecting the production of the sex hormones from the gonads. So what are the hypergonadotropic hypogonadism causes? Anything that affects the gonad primarily: Klinefelter, Turner syndrome, or gonadal injury. So hypogonadotropic hypogonadism, there's problem with the central area. Is either it's constitutive, or secondly to Carmel syndrome or any CNS lesion in form of infection, trauma, malignancy. All right. So the next concept to talk about is the sex chromosomal disorders. The sex chromosomal disorders. It's very important for us to remember that sex chromosomal disorders can be in three forms: Klinefelter syndrome, Turner syndrome, and double Y syndrome. So let's look at it. Double Y males, Turner syndrome, and uh, Klinefelter syndrome. So the three of them are actually secondary to aneuploidy, which affect the meiotic division. So when there is aneuploidy due to meiotic non-disjunction, there's problem. Now, guys, let's just quickly go back to our spermatogenesis so that you guys will be able to appreciate what I'm saying by aneuploidy. So, um, let's look at no meiosis 2 now, because that's when majority of the problem happen. Meiosis 2. So meiosis 2 is when the secondary spermatocytes are actually going to, okay, well, it can happen there, it can happen in meiosis 1, anyone. So let's just look at, okay, meiosis 2, 46, sister chromatids are separating into 23, 24. Now let's assume that one of them they not separate fully. So you have 24 going into one and 23 going into another one. Now, this 22 going into one, 24 going to another one. The one that has the 22 doesn't have this sex chromosome going to it. Just imagine that you have 23 chromosome here, 24 chromosome here. 23 because one of the sex chromosome that is supposed to go to this one did not go to this one. It is only 22 autosomes that you have here. The 23rd one now joins with this guy, making 2 sex chromosome that you have here. So that means you're having a sperm with 24XX. Just imagine a sperm joining with a sperm with 24XX, joining with another egg. That means you can form 46XXX. So that is one phenomenon. Or maybe you have a problem here. There's a problem here in which you have unequal separation of those chromatids. Unequal separation of the chromatids. So all the paternal derivative are supposed to go to one side, and all the maternal derivative are supposed to go to one side. So of course, the paternal derivative are the ones that will form here, the YY, while all the maternal chromosomes are going to aggregate and form XX. Now imagine that you don't have, the maternal chromosome, going to this side. You now have the maternal chromosome joining this guy here. So you have 47XY chromosome. 47XY chromosome. So that 47XY chromosome, can fertilize, can also undergo division, to form 23, 24. So, of course, one of them will be 23Y, the other one will be 24XY. So let's just go down to the stuff. Maybe I can find a way to make it a little bit clearer, because that stuff can be actually very complex unless we are showing an image. I think I have an image on my phone that I've made a snapshot that can make it a little bit clear to us. So yeah, so let me just go there. So let's look at the problem in Klinefelter syndrome. So the karyotype in people with Klinefelter syndrome is, it typically happens in males, and the karyotype is 47XXY. So because of the abundance of these X chromosomes, the testes do not develop. So that's what happens. The testes do not develop because of the abundance of the X chromosome. So if the testes do not develop, there's dysgenesis of the seminiferous tubules. So that means that the seminiferous tubules will not actually develop properly, and you don't have the Leydig cells there, you don't have the Sertoli cells there. So if there's absence of the Sertoli cells, that means there's low level of inhibin B, which is one of the hormones that's produced from the Sertolin cells, making the level of FSH to be high. If you don't have presence of the Leydig cells, that means that the secretion of testosterone will be low, and the level of LH will be high, because you know that LH stimulate production of testosterone, and testosterone inhibits LH. So if there's little testosterone to inhibit LH, that means the level of LH will be high. If there's low level of inhibin to inhibit FSH, the FSH level will be high. So because of the fact that this individual have low level of production of testosterone, so they will have, female pattern development. That's what happens in there. Number one, there's little testosterone to develop the testes. The testes is very small and they are firm. And of course, sperm production is affected, so they are azoospermic. They have a tall stature because of the fact that there's something we call the SHOX gene. That's a short stature homeobox gene. This gene is present on the X and Y chromosome. It's expressed both on X and Y chromosome. Now, because of the fact that these guys express abundant, chromosome, they have 2X, 2Y, 1Y, 2X. So that means that there's a lot of this XOS gene to be expressed. So, which brings about an increased, stature that they have. When this gene is suppressed, you have short stature. When it is highly expressed, you have tall stature. So because of the high expression of this SAOH gene, they are going to have a tall stature. The reason why they call them inuchoid appearance that they have is that what inuchoid means is that you have a mix of both male and female, development pattern. Their body structure is looking at that of a male. If you look at people with Klinefelter syndrome, they don't have the broad chest that is typical of a male. So their chest is like that of a female. And of course, they'll be looking like that of a male. You see their face, they look like male. So having both female and male appearance makes that person an inuchoid. So of course, they are going to have delayed epiphyseal closure of the bone because of reduced testosterone. Because the testosterone that is, produced, that gets converted to estrogen that increase the bone length. That's one reason. And another reason is because of the SOH gene that we talked about that is overexpressed. So that brings about delay epiphyseal closure and eventual increase in the bone length that they have. They have gynecomastia because they have a lot of androgens. They have one of those.
Sorry.
Yes,
Hello?
that's right. Yes, I'm listening.
Sorry, just to verify. So what you're saying is that even in males, it is estrogen that is responsible for epiphyseal closure. Is that
Yes,
it? Like
yes,
conversion of testosterone to estrogen via aromatase is
exactly,
what is responsible for epiphyseal. Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
It is estrogen that is driving that process. So, but this growth is actually due to this SHOX gene that is overexpressed in them due to their, this X chromosome will express its own SHOX, this one will express its own SHOX, this one will, so you have increased bone length at the end of the day. So they have unopposed activity of estrogen. So the estrogen that is there from the adrenal gland, the little testosterone that's converted from the adrenal gland, converted to estrogen, can explain the gynecomastia that they experience. And of course, if there's no testosterone, the hair distribution is going to divert towards that of the female. And of course, we said that the sex chromosome, the sex hormone are the ones that are involved in development. So they have a developmental delay at the end of the day. Now, because of the fact of this abundance of this XX chromosome, one of them becomes inactivated by silencing. So there's inactivation of one of the X chromosome as E chromatin and is not expressed. So it's just condensed as a bar body. So one of the ways you can separate Klinefelter from Turner syndrome is that you have bar body formation in Klinefelter, you don't have bar body in Turner syndrome due to inactivation of the X chromosome that they have. So of course, all these things will cause hypogonadism because the seminiferous tubules is already atretic, they don't develop, so they experience hypogonadism. That is why Klinefelter syndrome is one of the causes of hypergonadotropic hypogonadism, and they have been shown to have high risk of developing breast cancer, maybe because of the gynecomastia that they experience. So one of the things I want to watch out for is that the level of inhibin B is low, the level of testosterone is low, bringing about an unopposed increase in level of LH and level of FSH. So just picture someone with Klinefelter syndrome as someone that is not producing androgen, and the only thing that is active in that person is estrogen. So estrogen will cause, development of the breast, gynecomastia, will bring about the female hair pattern, distribution, and the little testosterone will be responsible for the short or the slowed growth that they have, as well as the infertility symptoms that they experience and the small farm testes that they also experience. While the abundance of expression of the SHOX gene brings about the tall figure that they show. So this condition is actually caused by um, by dysgenesis. Sorry, I said genesis, non-disjunction, during gametogenesis. So that is what causes it. So when there is failure, let's say you have um a you have a spermatocyte that is undergoing division, and at this stage, let's say that at this stage, so at this stage, dividing from 96 to 46, so the division is unequal. So you have 45 here, you have 47 here. So some of the X chromosome, all the X chromosome are actually going to come here. So you have X, Y, X, Y. So everything is going to be, because you are supposed to have one sex chromosome per molecule, per body here. You are supposed to have only one of the X chromosome, only one, or the Y. This Y that you guys are seeing means that Y chromosome is made up of two sister chromatids. That's what it means. But it's still a Y chromosome. It's just made up of two sister chromatids. This Y chromosome you are seeing here is made up of one single sister chromatid. That's why you are seeing them representing it by Y. It doesn't mean that they have two Y chromosomes. It's not two Y chromosomes. It's a single Y chromosome that is represented by two sister chromatids. Now, this X chromosome, if it doesn't go to this place due to non-disjunction, that is unequal separation. So this X chromosome is now moving here. So that means that what you are going to be having here is 45 sister chromatids, which are autosomal, no sex chromosome there. While the two sex chromosomes will now be here, the X chromosome and the Y chromosome, making it 47. Now this 47 too will now divide. So, some of them will go to 24, some of them will go to 20, because it's 47 here. So 23, 24, 23, 24. The one with the 24, we have XY. Now, this 24XY can now fertilize an egg. So you have a sperm with 24 XY chromosomes fertilizing an egg that bears X chromosome. So that means that you have 23 plus 24, that's 47. 47 XXY. I don't know if it makes sense to you guys. So that means that the problem actually occurs at, paternal side in meiosis 1, majorly. Guys, do you guys get
Sorry, Dr. Babale, I kind of get you, but I was under the impression that the problem could occur either at meiosis 1 or meiosis 2.
Okay. It will be very difficult for it to occur at meiosis 2 of paternal. Okay, I'm listening to you.
Why?
To you. Okay, now.
For which one? For Klinefelter?
For Klinefelter, yes. Let's look at it.
Okay.
Unless maybe it's affected.
I'm listening.
Unless maybe, because what you're having in Klinefelter is XXY. That means that you're having a sperm.
Yes.
That means that you're having a sperm.
Yes. Okay.
Having, in addition to the Y, because the father will always donate Y chromosome because we've said that Klinefelter is that of a male. So that means you're actually forming a male. That means you are trying to get X egg with Y sperm. That's what you are trying to do.
Yeah.
And the only way that thing can happen is either you have the sperm having XY or the egg having XX.
Exactly.
So now, if you are trying to create a sperm that have XY, the problem can only happen at meiosis 1, not meiosis 2, because at meiosis 2 they will have dedicated themselves to where they are going.
Right.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy, XX. They are only going to X. They are only separating into X. So there's no way, you can have XY products here. And the same thing here. This one they are already dividing to YY. So there's no way you can have a XY product here. Do you get it now, Dr. Francois?
Yeah, I get it.
But if you look at the the ovarian, the what's it called, non-disjunction at the level of.
Tenants.
So here, well, you can have everything you want to talk about here. It can happen both at meiosis 1 or meiosis 2. It should be able to happen at meiosis 1 and 2 here. So
Okay.
if this sister
Right, because that one is purely X.
is purely X,
Mm-hmm.
so you can have your single, this secondary oocyte containing 47, sister chromatids. 47 sister chromatids with, 2X chromosomes. So it can divide into 24, 23. 24, 23. So the 24 will be bearing the 2 sister chromatids. Do you understand? So the 24.
Yeah, I guess.
So the 24 will be bearing the 2. So if you just go and join with a sperm with one Y, so you have XSY at the end of the day. So, or this one is 46, or it's not just separating equally, because here it already contains. No, can it happen here? Can it happen here? Okay, X. Okay, yeah. So it contains 2 X chromosomes here, right? No. It contains single X chromosomes. Contains a single X chromosome, right? But 2 sister chromatids. So if the 2 sister chromatids fails to separate into individual, like one sister chromatid of the X chromosome is supposed to go here, the other one is supposed to go here, so that this one can degenerate. But if both of them go to one single area, you can have 24 XX. Or it starts from here.
Yeah, well understood.
So that is that. Dr. Zuliat, is it clear to you?
Yeah, I think I understand, but the part that I think I didn't really get was the female. You know, you said that we could have what's it called? But seven. Let me see. Wait, let me tell you the way I understand it, because
Okay.
I was kind of flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like at some points the father would the paternal chromosome would donate more than one X and one Y, so it donates X and Y. And you said that one when the paternal chromosome is when the paternal side is donating the Y chromosome, that happens only in meiosis 2, right?
Yes. No. Okay. Sorry, I was not listening. What did you say?
Okay. I said like so now this Klinefelter is basically when, well, I think you say it in 2 places now. Like when the paternal chromosome is donated, like is donating the XY, and you said that would be in what's it called? You said that would be meiosis 1. Actually, you said that can only happen. You said that can only happen in meiosis.
You know what, guys, I don't think you guys should disturb yourself, but if you guys want to understand, let's go there so that will make it clear. So, Dr. Zulia, let's go there. Let's look at the paternal side. See, the reason why I'm even having difficulty in explaining it is that I don't have the karyotype imaging. If I have the karyotype imaging, it will be very, very easy to talk about. But let me see. Oh yeah, Dr. Zuliat, let's look at it together now. Oh yeah. So this is a male. This is a male segment, right? Mm-hmm. This is a male segment. I'm listening to you, Dr. Zuliat.
Okay, yeah. So like the understanding is not so solid, but I was just like grabbing what you guys are saying, like along the line.
Okay.
So you said that normally the father should donate Y and the mother should donate like the X, and that's the XY. But now in Klinefelter, it's like the father is donating more than he's supposed to donate. So it's like he's donating XY. Right?
That is a possibility.
That's a possibility.
Is it that the father is donating XY and it is fertilizing X ovum? So you have XSY.
XSY, or the mother is donating XXX.
Yeah,
and
the mother
joining
is
with one Y.
And it is being fertilized by a Y chromosome, forming XXY. So let's now go back to what you're saying.
Okay, so you are now like for the XXY that is coming from the father, from the XY that is coming from the father, that can only occur at meiosis 1 because there has not been any splitting like it hasn't splitted into like single should I say sex chromatids, so that the only way it can donate both X and Y at the same time is when it's still in meiosis one.
Very
And
correct.
that, yeah, so for the other one, you were like, for the female, you were like, for that to happen, that can happen in any stage because it's XX, like it's homologous. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe that's not the right word. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So do you
I think
get it
that's what
now?
you said.
Because
Yeah,
because
yeah, got
there's
it.
no way once that sperm has reached meiosis two, there's no way it can form XXY. There's no way it can form XY again. There's no, because all of them have been committed. Hmm? You know, Dr. Zia, see, this YY has already been committed here, XS has already been committed. So what they can give is XX. So this one, what it can give is YY. So there's no way you can have XY again. But you can have
Yeah,
that problem if it's happening at meiosis one before, the commission into the X and the
yeah,
Y. For the
well,
female,
yeah, I
just picture
get
that
it.
just picture that this all these things you are looking at are the female, that are the oocyte. Now change this one to XX. Change this one to XX. Now that means that this guy, this one can actually move into 40, 45 and 47. 45 and 47. That is, if the XX, this single X chromosome that is here, you know that this X1 will come here, this X1 will come here, this X1 too should come here, assuming that what we are looking at is
Mm-hmm,
X2. Now
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
this X comes here, this other X is supposed to come here. If this X do not come here and it joins this one, that means that this one will be deficient of one X chromosome.
X.
Do you get it?
Yeah,
Or two
yes.
sister chromatids, or two sister chromatids, because the X chromosome is made up of two sister chromatids at this stage. That's why we are seeing 2C. Do you understand? So you
Okay.
see, oh my god, you see what we are looking at? This guy here, hmm? It is Y chromosome that is made up of two sister chromatids. Do you get it?
Okay.
This one
Yeah,
here,
I get it.
this one here is one X chromosome, but it is made up of two sister chromatids. You understand how it looks like? You can picture the way it looks like,
Yeah,
right?
I get.
Mhm.
Since it's like 92, like 92, this thing that is here. So that means like they see 46, 46.
Yes, you get it. So if you have failure of separation of this X chromosome, if this X chromosome is not coming here and is now joining this one here, so that means that you are going to have 47 sister chromatids here, and you're going to have 45 sister chromatids here. So this 47 can now
Mm-hmm.
continue to now start dividing, because there's no way it can divide equally. It cannot. So because of the 47 that it has, this one too will be problematic. But this is where the problem has started. So you not say that the problem is
Mm-hmm.
here. This one is happening normally. The problem is not here. There's no way this one can
Mm-hmm.
divide equally, because you already have an odd number. So it's eventually going to go to 20, because this is 47, so it's going to go to 23x, but 24xx. The other x is the aberrant stuff, so 24x and 23x.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what will cause the problem. And this 23, the 24xx will now, go and fertilize with a Y chromosome and form 47xxy.
So
So
we
the
can actually even say that everything too is like mess is one. Like,
so meiosis one, yes, is the most important one where the problem can come. Meiosis one, yes, you are very correct. Is meiosis one. So that is
So,
that.
Wally, please, we have to be rounding up soon so that
Yes.
we have some time before the renal class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Turner syndrome, let's just talk about Turner syndrome. So in Turner syndrome, the problem there is the problem in Turner syndrome is that they have XO. So you have you have so it can be different from, is that you have a X ovum being fertilized by a sperm that does not carry any chromosome, or you have a sperm fertilizing an ovum without any chromosome. You can form hexo. So that can also be secondary to the dysgenesis, that we have in meiosis. And at the same time, it can be secondary to what we call mosaicism. That is mitotic non-disjunction. Now you guys should just picture that, okay, once you have the formation of the zygote, and you know that the normal zygote will be 46XX because it commonly appears in females. So you have formed a female with 46XX. Now that zygote is supposed to undergo mitosis. The only thing that will be undergoing meiosis in the zygote is the germ cells. So the other somatic cells, which is maybe cells of uterus, the breast, everything, they'll be undergoing mitosis. So there can be problem with mitosis because mitosis you are supposed to have 46XX giving rise to two cells with 46XX each. That is 46X giving rise to 46X, so that you can start proliferating the cells like that. But in some situation you can have non-disjunction, so that you'll be having instead of 46X going to 46X, you have 45X, 47X. Do you guys get? So it will not be it will not be complete. It will not be equal. You won't have equal separation of the chromosomes because of non-disjunction during mitosis. I don't know if you guys are with me, oh guys.
That non-disjunction during mitosis, is that what I explain? Like, I didn't
Okay.
really get it
So
actually.
what I'm trying to say is that, you know, there's a cell that is dividing. If a somatic cell is dividing, the chromosome of a somatic cell is 46XX. If it wants to divide, you know, division means you are producing another cell of the same type. So it's going to produce two cells of the same type. Two cells of the same type. So it's supposed to go to 46, you know, 46. One cell 46, another cell 46. Do you get it, Dr. Zuliat? So
Yeah, I'm getting.
if there's non-disjunction, that means that it's going to go to, let's say 40. You are going to be seeing 45, and another one will be containing 47.
47.
Do you
Okay.
understand? So if you now have a cell that you are seeing 45 and 46, you can call that mosaicism. If you are seeing a cell that has 46 and 47, that's mosaicism. Do you understand? So that's another phenomenon in which you can have Turner syndrome, because you already have a 46 that is normal, but you are now seeing some cells that are containing 45 in the same individual. You are seeing 46, and another in the same individual you are also seeing 45. That is mosaicism. That can only happen after zygote has formed, when it is now dividing through the process of mitosis, because you are going to be seeing different cells with different karyotypes. Are you with me, guys? So you call that one mitotic non-disjunction. It has clinical significance. It just reduces the severity of the condition. So let me just quickly round up. So in people with Turner syndrome, they are short-statured. Why? They are short-statured because there is, you know, absence of the second X chromosome. The second X chromosome is absent. So that means they only have one X chromosome to be showing the SAH. So this SAH gene is just, you know, not well expressed because there's only one X chromosome that is showing it. And ideally, you are expected to show it on both chromosomes. If you show it on more than two chromosomes, you have abnormal growth. If you increase growth rather. If you show it on only one chromosome, you have reduced growth. If you show it on two chromosomes, you have normal growth. So because of the fact that they only have one chromosome that is working, they have, you know, short stature, and you can treat it by giving them growth hormone early enough. You want to give them growth hormone. And because of the fact that the other X chromosome is not there, their ovaries do not develop, because you need both X chromosomes to be functioning before you can have ovarian development. So there's stick ovaries, that is, the ovaries are replaced by connective tissue. And of course, if you have stick ovaries, that means the level of estrogen is going to fall. So if there's a fall in the level of estrogen, there's little thing to inhibit LH and FSH. So that means that the level of LH will be risen, the level of FSH will be high. Do you guys get it? So that is what happens in the Turner syndrome. And the problem is usually associated with meiotic error in the paternal gamete. So you have a paternal, you know, gamete, that is the X, the sperm is not actually bearing any chromosome to fertilize the ovum that contains the X chromosomes. So that is what actually happens most of the time. The non-disjunction will have happened at the female. You guys should remember that when we're talking about the non-disjunction, we're talking about two possibilities. We're saying one will actually have 47, while another one will have 45. The one that have 47 will undergo meiosis 2 to develop into 23 and 24. Now, what happens to the one with 25? The one with 25 will eventually go to 25, 23 and 22, not 23 and 23. So the one with the 23 is lacking one sex chromosome. So if that one, let's say, is not the sperm and is lacking X chromosome, if it combines with the ovum with X chromosome, it's going to actually form 45XO, because 22 is combining with 23 to form 45. It lacks one X chromosome, so that means it will be XO. Do you guys get it? Sorry, I'm sounding too abstract, but
I think it's because we don't really have an image that we are following, so we are all just like imagining as they're saying it. So,
yeah,
but
I'm very
another
sorry.
thing is that I just probably wanted to ask is the mosaicism something. So mosaicism is like normally both maternal and paternal have already like donated what they're supposed to donate. So it's during the stage of like should I say implantation, or what's it called, that the mosaicism occurs. Is that what you're trying to
No.
say?
After
Like
zygote has formed, immediately
after
after,
zygote has formed, yes.
yes.
After, in my rather, okay.
So what happens when zygote forms, Dr. Zulia? There's going to be mitosis so that you can form different cells. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The uterus will start growing, the legs will start growing by
Mm-hmm.
mitosis, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the
Yeah.
separation now. So you tend to notice that some cells will contain the normal chromosome, while the other cells will contain abnormal chromosomes. So because of the fact that some cells still contain normal chromosome, the presentation will not be as severe as when you are having it in meiosis.
Mm.
Because in meiosis, everything will be 45x. Everything will be 45x.
Okay.
Everything will be
Yeah.
45x. So what I just want to mention here is that, before I go, is that problem can be secondary to the meiotic non-disjunction and all this, but at the same time, it can also be secondary to some deletions. Just imagine that you have two X chromosomes, X chromosome, S chromosome. Now, you have each of the X chromosome. Now, let's ignore one X chromosome. Let's look at the second X chromosome. The second X chromosome has two short arms and two long arms. Can you guys picture that? I'm sorry, maybe I have to retake this lecture by using image. I think I've messed up with maybe I have to go and look for image somewhere and then try to, explain everything with the image. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think that would be better. Because remember that you were taking us the other parts, the what's it called? Also this meiosis part too, that we had to like follow with the numbering one hen and two C. It was a lot easier while we were using image, because we could see how the
Yeah,
numbers were growing.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So look at this chromosome now. This is the short arm, this is the long arm. So just imagine that you have two deletion of this short arm. That means that you are only going to have a chromosome that contains a long arm of, that chromosome. We call that phenomenon isochromosome. So that is why, if you look at some textbook, the way they will define Turner syndrome to you, they will tell you that there's either complete loss of the other chromosome or there's a partial loss of the other chromosome. Now, if you imagine that you have deleted these two, if you imagine that you have deleted these two short arm and you are remaining this long arm, that means that you have lost a part of the chromosome. So your body will still be seeing it as if you don't have that second chromosome there. So that is what we call isochromosome. That is, you only have this one representing that second chromosome. So in that kind of individual, you will be having XO, but that O is actually replaced by this guy only. You call that phenomenon isochromosome. So let me just round up. Let me round up. So we have 12 minutes more. I'm trying to rush so that you guys can have a little time for your. So they have ovarian dysgenesis. There's no estrogen being produced, so there's failure of inhibition of LH and FSH. And of course, you guys remember the cardiovascular complication. They have bicuspid aortic valve and coarctation of the aorta. And you know what happens when there's coarctation of the aorta? There's narrowing of the aorta just below or distal to the right subclavian artery. If you guys remember how the way the subclavian artery branches from the aorta. So it's just distal to the right superior artery. So that means that it is after the right superior artery that you have the descending artery. So blood supply to the lower limbs is cut off. So that means that the blood supply, the pulses on the lower limbs will be lesser than that of the upper limbs, because upper limbs will have branched from the aorta. Because I wish I can show us that image. Oh Jesus. Okay. Uh I assume too much. That's my problem. Now let me go back. This is the arch of aorta. Arch of aorta. So you guys can see this. This is where the constriction happens. This is the descending aorta that supplies the lower limb. So that means that if the constriction is here, just distal to the right, you know, okay, sorry, just distal to the left subclavian artery, not right, left subclavian artery, supplies the femoral, the blood supply to the lower limb is already taken care of. So the reason why the upper limb will be all right is that it's happening just distal to the left subclavian. So this left subclavian is supplying the left upper limb, and this right subclavian is supplying the right upper limb. This will form the axillary. Subclavian will differentiate into the axillary, so they will keep supplying the upper limbs, and the pulses on the upper limbs will be normal. It will be normal. So what else do they have? They have lymphatic problems. So they cannot drain lymphatic. They cannot drain lymph nodes. So there's accumulation of lymph node within the body, which causes the lymphedema they have in the hands and the feet. The failure to drain lymph node in the neck also causes the web neck that they have, as well as the cystic hygroma that they experience. So it's also been shared with horseshoe-shaped kidneys that we've talked about in our renals, high arch palate, and shortened fore metacarpal. So by the time you guys are already seeing broad chest, widely spaced nipple, the bicuspid, you already know what they are talking about. With lymphatic defect and web neck, this is Turner syndrome, and I've explained how it happens. Non-disjunction during meiosis or non-disjunction during mitosis. So if there's non-disjunction during mitosis, that you are looking at the concept of mosaicism. So where you will be having some cells having the normal karyotype while some cells having the abnormal karyotype. So the people having this mosaicism are at increased risk of developing gonadoblastomas. So you can still help them by giving them IVF, by giving them estradiol and progesterone to stimulate, the ovaries, to produce some little follicles, and so that they can ovulate, and you can achieve pregnancy, or you just do in vitro fertilization for them. So I think we just stop there so that you guys will have time to, prepare for your